nearly took his life, and as you hear in a somewhat resigned tone in his own voice, has certainly altered the course of his career. I was taking notes, just bring it out to everybody here, just so I can go through some of the notes that I took as he was talking. He began by talking about how much he has missed being a part of the tour, missed being around everybody. He says that this recuperation period for him has been, quote, much more difficult than the others. Remember, he's come back from multiple knee surgeries, multiple back surgeries, but this was an entirely different kind of circumstance. He said it was much more difficult. He described tough times. He used the phrase, a long way to go before he can get back out and try and play, in his words, tour-level golf. He doesn't know when that's going to happen. A lot of uncertainty in his voice and his tone about when he might be able to play, and I know many were waiting to hear if he would say anything about the accident itself. In February, he definitively closed that question down, saying, quote, all the answers are in the police report, and making no further comment. So clearly there was nothing more he was going to say about that. That's Tiger Woods this morning here live on ESPN. Domonique, what did you take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope for him that he handles the psychological journey well, and he's conscious about that, and the people around him are conscious about that. He talked a lot about the physical rehab, but there's no x-rays or MRIs to deal with what he may be feeling. And I think that's something that no one will see, and it's hard to anticipate, but it's something that's inevitable. When you are something that you are defined by, which Tiger, more than anyone that we know since the time he was a toddler swinging a golf club, is defined by his ability to play golf. To have it taken away so suddenly, I think is going to be a very difficult journey for him to go through, and I hope that the people around him are prepared to give him the support that he needs, not just pushing through the rehab, the physical rehab, but the emotional and psychological rehab too.
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the biggest thing for me is when he was asked the question, are you hurting right now? And he's like, absolutely, my back and I mean, to think about, how far he has been removed from the surgeries, but still how bad his body hurts. And to Nick's point, man, for athletes, that plays big tricks in your brain. And to deal with that pain as you're sitting in a press conference, and we don't know what level of pain, but he doesn't seem like one to mix words, and he's not, this guy's gone through some significant pain in his life. So to talk about that, I thought to me was very telling. He has a long road ahead, and he understands that journey, and it is going to be a battle. And hopefully, for somebody for us who watched him in his prime and how great he is, that he gets back to the tour even at all is a miracle, and would be fantastic to see him, even if he has to do it as what you talked about with the way Ben Hogan did it, man. Just to see him back on the course would be incredible.
He described it there, the very limited fashion in which Ben Hogan came back. Very quickly, the details on that, because we can't assume people know this. Ben Hogan, at the age of 36, who was already the preeminent golfer in the world, was in a terrible car accident. They said he'd never walk again. He walked out of the hospital 59 days later and won 6 major championships as his life and career went on. Again, he was 36 at the time of that accident. Tiger Woods is 45. He'll be 46 in December of this year. The circumstances are not exactly the same, but obviously there is a parallel. Dan, what are your thoughts here?
The line that stood out at the end was that his children have known him more for being injured than healthy, right? I have teenage sons who don't understand what the big deal is, right? Why we talk about Tiger Woods so much. So it'll be a generational thing where we all remember how great he was, and you try to explain it, but you're not going to be able to succeed. How great he was, and how much more should have still happened, right? I mean, he should have been able to run down Nicklaus and all those records, and he obviously won't get to now. So that's the shame of it. Obviously, it's not a tragedy because he's survived, but it's a disappointment as a sports fan, obviously, that you didn't get to see
in a variety of ways. Marcus, we'll give you the final word.
I think what Jeff and Foxy said about the mental part, but it also, I look at it another way. It could give you perspective, and not only him taking his time to get back to the game that defines him, which we all agree upon, but also put it in perspective. We talk about these athletes, especially when they are at the level of a Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan, where it just becomes insatiable. And we think about Kobe Bryant and the Mamba mentality. Sometimes these type of things, if he wants to work back, to play more majors, have an opportunity to win more, it may provide perspective about his journey and how to get there, as opposed to the Tiger that probably would push through and try the back pain and push through the leg pain. So I'm interested to see if he really takes his time. Obviously, the injury takes time and the things that he has to go through from a physical standpoint. But going to the mental and psychological part, I wonder if the perspective and almost losing your life, it sometimes can make you think about and go about things differently. Doesn't mean you won't be successful, doesn't mean you will be, but it may make your approach different. So I'm interested to see not only how long it takes him to get back from a physical standpoint, but his approach when he's actually on the golf course again, if it's going to be more about appreciation than really focusing and locking in on, I gotta win, I gotta do this. Sure, he wants to win, but his perspective may be a lot different every time he steps on the golf course now.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and his perspective will probably change over the next few weeks and months, depending on how his the physical piece of it all goes. But he was talking about his greatness in the past tense. If you listen to it there, he was referring to all of his dominance of the sport in the past tense, time and time again, which I think gives you a glimpse into where his head is now. Anyway, those are the first comments from Tiger Woods in a public setting like that since the accident back in February. Let's move on to the other enormous. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.